Hey, what's good everyone? ZeroInfinity here, and we got a new expansion coming up on the October 14th. And I wanted to do a series about my initial impressions on the brand new cards. And they just released a couple of new cards yesterday or well last night or something. And I want to give you a sneak peek into what I think about these cards, and hopefully I can do a whole series about it. Like every day that something gets spoiled, like a card gets spoiled, I'll probably post a video here on YouTube to complete a series of all my initial impressions of the brand new cards coming in the October 14 expansion. So yeah, let's not take too much time. Let's get into the first few cards that were unveiled yesterday, last night, whatever whenever it was. So here are the first few cards that they unveiled. Right, let's get. Ooh, that's a sick animation, man. Wait. Can we go back? Like that was an insane animation. Dude, look at the detail. There's a shark there, and it summons a sea monster. What's this card? The Slaughter Docks. Slaughter Docks. Round start, toss 1. If you are deep, destroy me to summon a random sea monster. Okay. And it's 3 to cast too. That's really good. I really like cards like this wherein it is a enabler in itself, and then it also becomes a win condition later on. So it's good early, and then it scales into the late game super well, because the general game plan about deep decks, right? So this is basically deep support, and then the general game plan is during the start of the game, during the first few turns, like turn 1 to 6, turn 1 to 5, maybe up to turn 7, you're tossing cards, trying to get rid of cards from your deck, and then you want to get to deep territory, and then you start dropping bombs. This does double that. Like it does both. So during the early stages of the game, it helps you get to deep. It gets you to 15 cards much faster than usual. And then when you're there, once you're already deep, you get a random sea monster, and it's always gonna be huge, right? Like anything, like even the beast below, even if you get it, that's basically a 3 to cast 7/7. And it also, the other implication is, since it's round start, you can get some like you can pseudo protect your creature that comes out from Slaughter Docks, because you get it at your round start. So example, it's your attack token. You What happens is you can get a nice open attack if that's what you choose to do, because the creature isn't present at all once you put down Slaughter Docks. It only happens during the round start. Then again, there's also maybe like a drawback to that, since they can answer your landmark card, but we haven't seen the cards that can deal with that, because I assume it's not gonna be the usual removal that we use on creatures. So there's gonna be a couple of special cards probably included in the expansion that specifically deals with landmark. But overall, this is a solid card, good early game, and scales super well into the late game. But we have deep that hasn't been really super popular on the ladder, and then we can take it into general directions. Maybe when we slot in this card, maybe we can take out Nautilus if it's a little bit too clunky in the meta, and we can include Slaughter Docks instead for faster toss, and then a more well-rounded early game, and then get that late game power punch still. So yeah, let's move on. We Slaughter Docks, we get sunk cost, slow, 8 to cast, shuffle a unit or landmark into its deck. So yeah, so that was exactly what I was talking about. So we're probably gonna get a couple of cards that will specifically deal with these landmarks, and we get to see one of them here in sunk cost. It's a little bit on the expensive side, maybe not a little bit. It's really on the expensive side with 8 cost. You can only use it starting turn 5, assuming you have 3 back spell mana. And of course, it's slow, so it's not exactly a vengeance. What makes Vengeance so good is that it is a fast card. But the thing to note about here is, which I think is positive, is Bilgewater doesn't usually have hard removal, and this is the only time that we're going to see that. Like, this is the first time we're gonna see Bilgewater have hard removal with sunk cost. So I think the casting cost for it being something that is hard removal out of Shadow Isles is something that was considered in the design of this card. So we do not want a lot of the regions interlapping with what their strengths are. So it can do something that Shadow Isles can do, but since it's in Bilgewater, they decided to ramp up the cost a little bit, which I think is pretty fair, especially that it also interacts with landmarks and it might be pesky for some to deal with. So yeah, I guess pretty standard Runeterra costed removal card. What else do we have in store? Lounging Lizard. 3 to cast, elusive, round start, deal 2 to me, 3/5. 3/5. So it dies in 3 turns, and it matters when you put it down, right? Like Monkey Idol. You can get either 2 offensive options or 2 defensive options, since it takes 3 turns for it to get off the board. So I think it's most probably like Solitary Monk in Ionia. I think that's the thing that we can compare it to, wherein it's a 3 cast elusive, pretty overstated, but it has a particular drawback, which in this case it deals damage to itself. So this might be starting a trend. Maybe the future cards that we see here is going to also do self-harm. So maybe that's good news for Vladimir. Maybe a rework is coming soon, because Vladimir has been absent from all of the seasons in Runeterra. Like, there was like a brief time he was viable, wherein they were playing it with the buffed Crimson units or something like that. Oh well, when the new Crimson units came into play, but then again he fell off again. So maybe we're seeing some support here for his archetype, and that not much else. I think the decks that this can slot into, there was this Fringe deck in, I think, season 3, Freljord and Bilgewater, that ran elusive, so it might slot into something aggressive like that with, and then you can push some damage. Of course, you're gonna have to put it down, or you're gonna have to develop it on your attacking turn, because if you develop it on your defensive turn, you get 2 defensive turns out of him. If you develop it on your attacking turn, you get 2 attack turns with him, and then he's off the board. So it's really gonna reward a lot of your very aggressive decks that is able to support him. I think it also has to be said that even if you buff him, for example with Omen Hawk, a +1/+1 is not gonna do much, because it will still get off the board since it's deal 2 damage every turn during round start. So you at least have to buff it twice, well, on the toughness part, so you can make use of it for an additional turn. So perfect way to evaluate this card is probably like 6 damage for 3 costs. I think that's how I would like to look at this card. And yep, let's move on. Lounging Lizard. Next is Fortune Croaker. 2 to cast, 2/3, play, deal 1 to me and an ally to draw 1. Wow. That's pretty sick. 2 to cast, to cycle, and then you get a body. That's pretty good. Well, on turn 2, it might not be a curve play, because you might not have a turn 1, and usually turn 1 creatures are 1 toughness. Save for some others, of course, that are 2 toughness. But maybe in the decks that you run Fortune Croaker, it's not gonna be played on curve. But this is an insane value. So it's basically a 2/2, and then you draw a card. So maybe like Messenger from the Constellation pool does the same, but of course, this can be main deckable, as well as it can just be a solid body on 2, right? You don't if you are falling behind or against an aggressive deck, for example, you can just plop it down on 2. It's well statted at 2-3, and you can start blocking. But once it starts to draw you a card when another creature is on board, that's pretty nuts. Wow. It's like, I guess, Bilgewater Shadow Assassin to some extent. Pre-nerf Shadow Assassin. So might be a format staple moving forward for decks that can support it. Maybe in more mid-range decks for you can get a body on the board with some gas. I'm really impressed with this card. I think this is gonna be one of those cards that is going to be seen a lot in the meta. Yeah, Fortune Croaker, really good. What else is next? Boxtopus, Challenger, deal 3 to me, 3/4 body. Okay, so we don't have a lot of Challenger mechanics in Bilgewater, and this is one of those few. I can't remember on the top of my head which others are Challenger. I think a lot of them are like give vulnerable or something, grant vulnerable. So might be the first Challenger in Bilgewater. I'm not really too sure. But a 3/1 stat line, since it comes into play and then it deals 3 to itself, is really a pretty okay removal option, if I might say. Like, probably equal to something like, well, not equal, a little bit close to Jawl Hunters. 3 power can deal with a lot of creatures. Even it can trade up to a lot of like 3 cost creatures at 3 toughness. I mean, it can even pick up some champions, right? Zed Fiora on the Challenger, and that's pretty nuts, man. I like the art though. Like it's like a boxing ring, and then he has a couple of gloves, and the flavor is he got hurt, so there's the deal 3 damage to itself. Wow, that's pretty cool. And then yeah, and like I said, I think we were going to see from the jump when we saw the lizard, we were going to see a lot more self-harm type of cards, and that could be alluding to something like possibly a Vladimir deck. And also one of the what do you call this, the synergies that I can think of is possibly Soraka is also coming in this expansion, so she's probably gonna have some heal synergy, and these self-harm creatures are gonna be a prime target for those heal target healing cards or whatever. Yeah, so right, really good. 3/1 Challenger basically can clean up a lot of units. I'm inclined to think that this is a playable card. Might not be in a lot of decks, but if you need some removal on 2, you might be considering this card if you are running Bilgewater. Yeah, let's go. What else is next? We got Crusty Codger. Wanna cast 2/4, play, deal 2 to me. So basically 2/2, right? Jagged Butcher, and that's a nice stat line to have. Without with it being 2/2. It's gonna be insane. Like, a lot of the premium 1-drops are at this particular stat line, right? And the advantage is that you can heal it up or something. Like, the thing about this, the cards like this, like the Octopus, the Lizard, is they get better with buffs and not just necessarily heals, right? Because the way Runeterra works, if you use something like it gives +1 toughness, or a buff that gives +2 toughness this turn, if it is in line with the base stat or like below or equal to the base stat, it retains the toughness. So that is going to be a mechanic that is gonna push cards like this, right? So if you do Pale Cascade, for example, it goes to 4/3 from 2/2, right? And then after the Pale Cascade has gone out on the end of the turn, it remains a 2/3. So those are the situations that I think would shine in these self-harm cards with high toughness, and they have a play effect that deals some damage to them. Also, I'm not gonna be happy when my opponents roll this out of like Petty Officer. They're gonna get a 2-4 out of Petty Officer, or maybe like Island Navigator. They're gonna get another 2-4 out of Island Navigator. Since it's a play effect, it doesn't happen on those random summoning shenanigans from cards like that. So it just increases the pool of creatures that can be potentially broken from Petty Officer and Island Navigator, and maybe some other cards that I can think of that that summon a 1-cost creature for you. So I'm not super stoked to see that from an RNG roll, not gonna lie. Yeah, Crusty Codger, man, really good. Is that it? Is there more? We get a Crumble for Shadow Isles now. So 5 to cast, kill an ally to kill a unit or destroy a landmark. Okay. This is a tough card to evaluate. 5 to cast, but the additional cost is you kill an ally, right? And you get to hard removal something off of your opponent's board, whether it be a unit or a landmark. So this might be Shadow Isle's way of dealing with landmarks, but I think like it can be playable depending on how you create your deck, or how you what archetype you are running. Since there are a lot in Shadow Isles, there are a lot of units that do something when they die. Like there's a lot of last breath units that like Cursed Keeper, for example. Even stuff like just Hapless Aristocrat, or just, you know, cheap token generators are also a nice way to activate Crumble for its additional cost. And 5 to cast is a nice kind of mana cost, since you can go turn 1 Hapless Aristocrat, for example, or whatever, Warden Spray, or whatever is in Shadow Isles or any other region that you can think of that has a nice 1 to cast. And then you can pass on 2, and then on turn 3 it's still active, since you'll have total of 5 mana, and you can be able to control the board really early with Crumble. So I think it's a solid option for decks that can support it. It's not gonna be in every Shadow Isles deck, but it's gonna be in decks that can naturally support Crumble. So those are decks that have last breath units, or things with token generation. Even barrels are something that you can crumble, right? So that's gonna be insane. What my question is, like, with this card, if you target something, right? Like for example, your barrel, and then your opponent gets rid of the barrel, or whatever unit you are targeting, whatever your friendly unit is, does the Crumble fizzle away? Does it get countered? That is something that maybe we'll have to see in playtesting, right? So is there more? Oh, okay, that's it. Crumble. We saw some pretty interesting cards, like those self-harm cards that we saw a while ago. Also, the landmark from Deep is pretty nuts, man. Like, I think that's gonna be a definite auto include in the Deep archetype, and as well as like Crumble possibly being a solid option for a lot of Shadow Isles deck, like existing right now, like Endure. Maybe something for Undying that hasn't been in the meta to play around with to get back into the game. And yeah, we're gonna check out more of these cards as they come along. So yeah, hope you enjoyed and learned something from this first part of the series of this ZeroInfinity initial card impressions. So yeah, if you like the content, consider subscribing and hit that bell notification button, man. And I'll see you next time.